Welcome back. Today I want to start with a question. And I really don't want you to answer this quickly. I want you to really sit with this. What if the life you want is not being withheld from you? What if success isn't avoiding you? What if opportunity is not ignoring you? What if the problem isn't that you don't know what you want? What if the problem is you're trying to get a life that belongs to a person you haven't become yet? Hear that? What if the problem is that you're trying to get a life that belongs to a person that you have not become yet? And that stings a little, doesn't it? Because we've been taught to focus on goals, write them down, visualize them, repeat affirmations, create vision boards, manifest, dream, hope, wish. And honestly, there's nothing at all wrong with any of those things. But let's be honest. None of those things require transformation. None of those things require sacrifice. None of those things require courage. Because you can simply write goals while staying the same person. You can repeat affirmations while avoiding difficult conversations. You can visualize success while continuing the habits that create failure. And that's exactly why so many people stay stuck. They just stay stuck. The life you want is hidden inside the person you must become. Today, we're going to go a little deeper. Not into what you want, but into who you actually need to become. Because success is not a prize. Success is an identity. And all the writing down of affirmations, goals, all those things are great. But it's kind of a passive form of transformation. But becoming who you need to be to have those things, that's active. You know, most people know exactly what they want. They want confidence, they want freedom, they want health, they want purpose, meaning, connection, financial security, impact. The problem is not really clarity. Like knowing the basic of what you want. That the problem isn't clarity. You deep down, you know the basics. Maybe you don't know exactly all the little finite details of everything you need, but you know the basics. But in the end, the problem is commitment to transformation. Because transformation is uncomfortable. Everybody wants discipline. But so many people don't want to practice discipline. You ever seen that quote? It says basically, everybody wants the success you have until they find out what it took to gain that success. Everybody wants confidence, but nobody wants repeated experiences of fear and overcoming exactly what creates confidence. Everybody wants success, but nobody wants the years and years and years of failure and trying again and again. I saw a quote the other day, which was amazing. It was like, winners have failed more times than losers ever will. The price of true success, is failing over and over again and not losing your enthusiasm. We want the destination, but we resist the process. Yeah, it's funny. For a lot of years, I was doing a ton of self-help work, trying to solve all my inner problems and just going through the motions, like digging deeper and deeper and deeper. But the true things I wanted was connection, relationship. These things eluded me. And I spent focusing on internal, correcting all this stuff, like fixing myself, fixing all the problems, going into motivational seminars, like digging deep. And it wasn't until I started putting myself out there, just going out and putting myself out there, where I was uncomfortable. That's when I started meeting people. Have you ever noticed something? People often ask, how do I get motivated? But nobody really asks, how do I become? One question seeks feelings, the other seeks transformation. One seeks comfort, the other seeks growth. And growth is where lives change. Your future is not built by doing what you want. You're it's built by you becoming and repeating over and over again. So let's look at an identity reframe. See, I want to challenge something. I want to challenge something big. Something that personal development, this personal development, the self-help world kind of gets wrong. And I'm not saying that goals are not important, because goals are, but goals are temporary and identity is permanent. Have you ever heard the quote? It's not about the goal. It's not about the mountain you climb. It's about who you become on the path. See, identity is permanent, and a goal can get you to a destination, but identity determines whether you stay there. Because so many people achieve something great, but believe that don't deserve it. And that's where it ends. Or maybe it's an empty victory. Think about it. There's people who can lose weight, a lot of weight. But if they still identify as somebody who avoids discomfort, the weight returns. Somebody can make massive amounts of money or like win the lottery. But if they still identify somebody with a lack of abundance or a lack of self-control, the money will eventually disappear. Someone can build incredible success, but if they identify as somebody who doesn't deserve it, they will silently and unconsciously sabotage it. Because identity wins eventually. You don't get what you want. You get what your identity can sustain. Hear that. You don't get what you want. Like you keep on saying, I want, right? You get who you are. You get what your identity can sustain. If you become the person who would have that, then that will be permanent. You don't get what you want. You get what your identity can sustain. And that's powerful. And it's actually liberating, because it means your future isn't determined by luck. Your future is going to be determined by who you're becoming. Let's talk about the mirror test. Here's a difficult truth. Your current life is giving you clues about your current identity, not your worth. We're not talking about what your worth as a human being or that kind of thing. We're talking about the clues about your current identity, your belief structure around yourself. The results you're producing consistently are reflections of who you're being consistently. Now, no, so don't get defensive because this is not blame. Who you're being is just who you are. It's your identity. It's actually empowerment. Because if identity creates outcomes or who you're being creates outcomes, then identity changes outcomes. So if you change your identity, you will change your outcome. So ask yourself, what kind of person would I naturally have? What kind of person would naturally have the life I want? Like you take a look outside. They call this modeling. You take a look and you see the people that have what you're going for. Like, how would they handle adversity? Now, how would they spend their mornings? How would they speak to themselves? And we're not talking about the inner critic who's automatic and negative, but we're talking about the inner advocate. How would their inner advocate have to be in order to get them going? The critic goes, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to get out and run this morning." And the inner advocate, like, "We're going out and running. I don't care how you feel." How would they respond when nobody was watching? This is a big thing. This is really who you are. When there's no cheers, there's no fans, there's nothing, nobody watching, no crowd. How would you need to be to have that success? Like, who would you need to be? And really, that person who has what you want, who's being who you want to be, how would they act when they didn't feel motivated? That's the question. Not what do I want, but the truth is, who do I need to become to have the life I want to have? You know, when I was in school, we never found out that I had dyslexia. And I found out when I was 26. So I didn't do great in school. And I thought I was not a smart person. And because I had real trouble reading and comprehending, my eyes would wave all over the page. My brain would throw in words where they don't belong. And I'd have to read something 5 or 6 times to get it. And I'd write something, spell it properly, and then I'd cross it out and change it and spell it wrong because my brain just didn't see things right. And so a long time I didn't go back to school. Fortunately, I got into a cycle which knocked me on the ground, and I had no choice but to go and create the life I had to create. And I had this belief that I was lazy and I wasn't committed and I wasn't smart. And I realized that I had this one thing about me that I knew for certain, that I was a hard worker. That's the one thing I knew. With all my flaws and all the ways I didn't fit in, all the ways I wasn't good enough, there was one thing about me, was I was the hardest worker you ever knew. And I decided that it didn't matter how intellectually gifted I was going to work so hard that it didn't matter anymore. And I was going to become that person who works the hardest of all. And sure enough, when I went back to school, for the first time in my entire life, I hit the honor roll every term, and I was basically the valedictorian at the end. Not because I was really intelligent or smart or had a good memory, but because I worked hard. 4.5 hours every night after school, I would study, 19 hours on the weekend. I'd read things 4, 5, 6 times more than the average person. And it worked. So there's this thing called the becoming framework. And I want to give you this framework. 3 simple words: be, do, have. So you become the person. You do the thing, and then you have it. See, most people live backwards. They think, when I have success, then I'll do successful things. and then I'll be successful. But the funny thing is, life really doesn't work that way. It works in the reverse. First, be the person who would have success. So what is a person, like in my eyes, for me, what I see in success is a person, in order to be a person who would have success, what do I need? First off, I need integrity, which means I am my word. So if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And if I don't accomplish it, I clean it up and I recommit and then I do it. 2, I work really, really, really hard. I'm not afraid of hard work. That's what I see being a successful person. They have integrity. They work hard. I'm also like a really successful people. They say like 90, 97 or 98% of the most successful people in North America have one thing in common, that they do some form of exercise early in the morning to start the day right. So I do that. The really, really successful people I have met do not drink alcohol. So I don't. The really, really, really successful people have a consistent routine. They go to bed around the same time. They get up around the same time every single day. And the really, really successful people I've met, they monitor their inner dialogue. And they don't just blindly agree with the inner critic. They challenge it. And then you can do the things you need to do. And then you will have success. First off, you become disciplined. Then you perform disciplined actions. And then you achieve disciplined results. To become courageous, you take courageous actions. And then you create courageous outcomes. If you want to become reliable, you perform consistent, reliable actions with integrity, and then you create reliable opportunities. See, the world is going to respond to who you're becoming, not who you say you want to be. Because it's interesting. The universe doesn't hear negatives or stuff like that. It's like, if you keep on saying to life, I want to be this, I want to be this, want to be this, life is going to say, okay, here, I'm going to give you a state of wanting to be that. There you go. Your wish is my command. You get to want to be that, because that's what you're asking. You're asking the life to give you a state of wanting to be something. But what if you create, I am this. So I'm going to take the actions that somebody who was this would do. See, the world responds to who you're becoming, not who you say you want to be. Your habits are votes for the person you're becoming. Every choice is a vote. Every action is a vote. Every excuse is a vote. And every courageous moment is a vote. And we come down to it, who are you voting for? So how about an emotional breakthrough now? And I need you to hear this part, because this may be the most important thing I say today. You don't need to become someone else. Becoming doesn't mean you're becoming someone else, okay? You need to fully become yourself. Yourself, but the strongest version of yourself. Yourself, but the bravest version of yourself. Yourself, but the most authentic version of yourself. Yourself, but the most disciplined version of self. Yourself, but the most compassionate version of yourself. See, growth is not adding something that doesn't exist. Growth is uncovering what was already there. Maybe letting go of all those limitations that say I'm not, and actually becoming who you are. Think about that. The courage you need is already inside you, and the resilience you need is already inside you. The wisdom you need is already growing inside you. You're not manufacturing greatness, you're revealing it. You know, it's funny. It's like I have an incredible imposter syndrome, right? I remember when I was in school, I'm achieving 91% plus average every single term in every single class. And I am hiding in the background, hoping like so nobody can see because if they see me, if they figure it out, I don't belong here. Even stepping into my practice, it was like, well, even before I stepped in my practice, I remember in my last term of school, one day I realized this really important fact that in student clinic, I was listening to everybody else saying this is the way it should be done, that is the way, and I was trying to be everybody else. And one day I walked into the student clinic and I decided, you know what? Why would I try to be like anybody else? I'm nothing like anyone else here. I'm older than the majority of them. I have a different life experience and I see things differently. So I decided to just completely be myself that day. And it's funny because like all my fellow classmates, their schedules were all booked up for that term. And I was like, I don't know, 40% booked as of that day. And I walked in there and I just decided to be myself, but the best version, everything, who I was being with people, how I was approaching things, the best version of myself. And three of the people who saw me that day broke down in tears. And I guess they started a big buzz about my treatments. The next thing you know, I was full with a waiting list for the rest of the term. And that was because I thought all these other people were better than me and I was trying to be like them because that's how success works. But you know what? It doesn't work that way. Your success only works when you become yourself and when you be yourself fully and completely. Because your future self is not someone you create. It's someone you uncover. So here's a reflection. I want you to imagine something. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. 10 years from now. The version that not only figured it out, but started being it. The version that became incredibly resilient, incredibly disciplined, courageous. The version that built the life that you're dreaming about right now. Now ask yourself, what would that future version of yourself ask you to stop doing now? What would that version of you from that future self tell you to start doing right now? Like light yourself on fire. What excuses would they challenge? What fears would they help you release? And most importantly, what kind of person did they become? Because that journey it starts right now, today. There is no tomorrow. There is only now and now and now. If you're thinking you can start tomorrow, you can't. It doesn't exist. All you got is now. All you got is today. Not when conditions are perfect and not when motivation arrives, but today. Okay. So as we close today, I want to leave you with a truth that changed my life recently. Stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, who do I need to become? Because goals don't wake up early. No, people do. Goals don't overcome fear. You do. Goals don't show courage. You do. Goals don't change lives. You do. You do. The life you want is on the other side of the person that you're willing to become. Don't just chase the dream. Become the dream. Don't just want life. Become the person. Don't just write down the goal. Write it down, but don't just live that identity. Don't just admire greatness. Practice greatness. Become greatness. Be greatness. One choice, one habit, one single decision at a time. You don't have to do it all, just one at a time. Because success isn't waiting somewhere in the future. Success is being built right now, every moment. Every single day, every moment of your life has a vote. And inside every action, inside every decision, and inside every moment you choose growth over comfort, you are becoming the person. And the life will follow. Become. Did you ever see Field of Dreams? And maybe it's an older show and some people don't do it. The guy, he kept on hearing this voice, build it and they will come. So I challenge you, build it and they will come. Build it and the person you want to be will come. The relationship will come. The job will come. The finance will come. But you got to build it. Action. Become. Then outcome. So until next time, keep growing. Keep becoming and keep believing. And remember, the greatest project you will ever work on is not your business. It's not your career. It's not your goals. It's the person staring back at you in the mirror, the one who's becoming. Keep becoming. Keep building your own inner advocate. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.